Welcome to Connect, powered by the Fulton County Department of Senior Services. I'm your host, Ladisa Onilagu. This show connects you to information, services, and programs that support healthy aging. Not only is healthy aging a priority of Fulton County government and the Department of Senior Services, it is the guide by which we provide the most relevant resources to assist our aging population to remain independent, healthy, and active. People have studied the circulatory system for thousands of years. The earliest known writings on the circulatory system appear in the Ebers Papyrus, an Egyptian medical document dating to the 16th century BC. The papyrus is believed to describe a physiological connection between the heart and the arteries, stating that after a person breathes air into the lungs, the air enters the heart and then flows into the arteries. So many discoveries and more accurate research about the heart have been made since that time. On today's show, we will talk about heart health and gain perspectives from board-certified physicians regarding regular screenings and modifiable risk that can impact heart disease. Later in the show, we will check in with our very own Chef Joe Engelberg, as well as a program participant who's a physician. They'll share more tips on heart-healthy recipes and overall well-being. So stay tuned. We're back and glad to have you with us today on Connect. I'm your host, Ladisa Onilagu. Roughly the size of a large fist and weighs between 10 to 12 ounces, the human heart pumps blood throughout the body, supplying oxygen and nutrients to tissues and removes carbon dioxide and other waste. If you are not taking care of this important muscle, then you may be at risk of heart disease, including a heart attack or stroke. However, there is hope for older adults who struggle with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, or other heart disease factors. Our first guest today is Dr. Farisa Wiragoda, a board-certified physician in cardiovascular disease. She completed her residency in internal medicine at Emory University School of Medicine, a fellowship in cardiology, and has worked with an interdisciplinary team at Grady Memorial Hospital to improve heart failure services. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ladisa.
Dr. Wiragoda, why do so many Americans ignore the potential threat of heart disease?
Well, that's a great question. It is often easy to ignore things that are difficult to deal with, difficult to understand, and sometimes difficult to do anything about. So it's possible that people ignore the threat of heart disease because, one, they may not understand how serious it is, they may not understand how prevalent it is, and they may just not know what to do about it. And lastly, heart disease doesn't cause pain, it doesn't cause any symptoms, so it's often easy to forget about, even if you do have the risk factors of diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So it is very important that we raise awareness about the risk factors and the issues surrounding heart disease so that people can know their options and know what to do about it.
You said something interesting, that there really aren't signs. To our viewers, can you explain in layman's term what a coronary event is and kind of share or expound on the fact of what signs that may present to an individual?
Yeah, so a coronary event, a coronary artery is an artery that feeds the heart. It brings blood, which carries nutrients and oxygen to the heart muscle, so the heart muscle itself can continue to pump, contract all day long, 24 hours a day. So what a coronary event is anything that causes blockage or disrupts this blood supply to the heart. So it can be a sudden problem, acute onset, massive, complete blockage, or it could be a partial blockage that comes and goes and causes various symptoms either throughout the day, over weeks, over months. And it's something that people need to understand, that many heart attacks can be very profound events, but some can be much more subtle. And it's important for us to pay attention to those signs and symptoms. Those symptoms include most commonly chest pain or discomfort, often in the center of your chest, but it can go to the arms, can go to the neck, the jaw, the back. Sometimes people just feel abdominal discomfort. Other signs and symptoms include nausea, lightheadedness, dizziness. Sometimes people present with just profuse sweating, cold sweat, can be a sign of a heart attack. So it's important to understand the various ways that a heart attack can present and act quickly. If you are having true severe chest pain, or even not severe, if it's coming and going, it's important to talk to somebody about it. Call your doctor, or if it's profound enough, you call 911. The faster we act, the more we can do about it. We can save lives, we can save cardiac muscle and function.
Thank you for saying that, because I was going to ask what should be done at that time, but you're saying just act immediately and just be aware of those symptoms. So can you share some of the modifiable factors that are related to heart disease?
Yeah, so risk factors. There are a number of things that puts us at risk for heart disease. Not many things we cannot control, such as our age, our gender, our race, and our family history. However, there are things we can control, and this is so important, and this is what is very important to raise awareness about. For example, our diet. What we're eating directly impacts our blood pressure, our cholesterol, our weight, and ultimately heart disease. In addition, physical activity. The more inactive you are, the more sedentary you are, the higher your risks for heart disease. Both diet and exercise can impact your weight. Obesity is a risk factor for heart disease that we have in our control. Yeah. And lastly, very importantly, smoking is a very important risk factor that increases your risk for heart disease. And next are the medical problems that come along with heart disease, such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and elevated blood sugar. These are all things your doctors can check for you and preemptively and start treatment in order to prevent actual heart problems.
So the population that we serve are adults ages 55 and above in our program. Some of those are active that participate in multi-purpose or neighborhood senior centers, but others are homebound and may be isolated and may be at a greater risk for the lack of mobility. So they probably need to understand how to approach their doctor, but there may be some apprehension with those individuals or even with our viewers. What can you share with anyone watching today, how to alleviate some of those fears and just go ahead and get checked out by a physician?
Well, there are many barriers to access to healthcare, and especially in the older population, like you said, mobility can just be a very basic, simple reason why people cannot get out of the house and to the physician's office. And of course, we know the medical system is cumbersome, the logistics are difficult, making appointments, and many things prevent people from getting to the doctor, but it is critical to see your physician, because even a simple conversation with your doctor can bring about your risk factors and bring about different things about your health that need addressing.
So I have one last question for you. Our viewers don't know that you have done some work in Bangladesh and Ethiopia. Are there any comparisons between those countries and America in terms of preventative heart health among the older population?
Yeah, I was very fortunate in medical school and in my residency training to travel abroad and work in multiple different countries and see how healthcare is approached in various different cultures and populations. And but one thing is interesting. These countries are also different, but across the board, heart disease is still #1, if not #2, killer in all of our countries, including the U.S. And so it's so important to talk about prevention. In Bangladesh, Ethiopia, access to healthcare may be even more limited than it is here in the States. And so raising awareness, education about signs and symptoms to look out for that heart attack and ways to prevent it are very, very critical.
Well, I'm so glad you joined us today to talk about prevention, bringing awareness to our customers or to our viewers. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Up next is Perfectly Seasoned with nutritionist and chef Joe Engelberg. We'll be right back.
Hi, welcome to Perfectly Seasoned, cooking for Fulton County seniors. Today, we're going to be making butternut squash soup. What is a butternut squash? Looks like this. Kind of odd shape. Sometimes I've heard people say, I've seen it in the grocery store, but I've never bought one because I don't know quite what to do with it. I'm going to share with you just a few tips on how to prepare it and then how to make the butternut squash soup. It's good for a good, healthy diet, especially a good, healthy heart. So here's what we're going to start doing. We have a butternut squash, which has a solid end and then a seed end. If you've ever cut a pumpkin, you know that a pumpkin has a large cavity sort of in the middle and got a lot of seeds in it. We're going to use the solid end of this butternut squash. So going to get the head, the top cut off. Going to cut it about halfway down. Then I need to peel it. So what I'm going to do is just take my knife and right down the side, peel it as thinly as possible. That's going to leave exposed this nice orange butternut squash flesh. It's almost like a pumpkin. Then next what I want to do is cut it into some small chunks. So I'm going to cut a slice like that. And then I'm going to turn it, cut it like this. Okay? So this will give me some nice small chunks that we can start making our soup with. So I have here in our saute pan some of it already going. Let me show you what I've done here in the pan. I started with some olive oil. I took just about 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil and maybe 2 cups of butternut squash chunks, just like we were cutting a moment ago. I'm going to add a few things to it. I've got some carrot. I'm going to add some carrot. I also have some acorn squash. Now, if you've never seen an acorn squash, I'll show you in just a second what that looks like. As soon as I add some red bell pepper, a little bit of onion, and then 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. Those are the things that are really going to give it some nice flavor. So I want those things to cook and begin to get soft. That's what I'm looking for. Now, the acorn squash is similar in texture to the butternut squash, but it kind of looks like an acorn. So we have butternut and acorn squash cooking together to make our soup. So as this cooks, we want to add a few seasonings to it. So a few things that I like to add to it. I have here a little bit of nutmeg. If you've ever used nutmeg, you know it's a little bit peppery, so I add it for a little bit of spice. Also use a little bit of cumin. I love cumin in it. Really nice flavor there. So we're going to add a pinch of that. I also like to add some chipotle. Now this is a smoked jalapeno. It's packed in a tomatoey, spicy sauce. So I just use just a little bit of that sauce, and that adds some great flavor to the overall finished soup. Maybe a little more, just like that. So those things begin to add flavor to my butternut squash soup. Something else that I love to add is a little bit of fresh ginger. So I'm just going to take a small piece of fresh ginger and drop it right in. What we're going to do when everything cooks is we're going to puree it anyway. So not everything has to be chopped just so. So you see how that's starting to brown? Smells really good. We're going to add next just a little bit of chicken stock to it. Once we get the chicken stock added, what I need to do is let that simmer for maybe 10 or 15 minutes till everything gets nice and soft. Once we get nice and soft, we'll come back and show you what the next step is. All right, so our butternut squash, our acorn squash, the onions and the peppers and the garlic are all nice and tender. The chicken stock that we added did a little simmer on there and it's nice and tender. What we're going to do next is transfer it to the blender. Once we get everything in the blender, what we're going to do is want to puree it, give it a nice smooth texture and consistency, and then we're going to finish it off and then serve it up. Okay, so once we get all this in there, got to make enough soup probably for a couple of 3 or 4 servings, but really good on a nice cold day or a hot day. It's just really good. Okay, so we're going to add just a touch more chicken stock to make sure it'll get a nice smooth consistency. Okay, then we're going to bring it over and puree it. Okay. Then a stir. Okay, so got it nice and pureed, nice and smooth. I'm going to put it back in the pan so we can finish it. And by finish it, what I really want to do is make sure that it has the right consistency for a soup and then finally the right nice flavor. So I'm going to bring it right back to temperature. To me, it looks a little bit thick, so the chicken stock is great for that. I'm going to add just a touch of that. And then my finishing flavors. Here's what I'm gonna do. I have just a little bit of cayenne pepper, just a pinch of that. Butternut squash has almost a buttery flavor, so the spiciness can really help contrast that. A little bit of fresh ground black pepper. Got a pinch of salt right here, just like that. And then I love to finish my butternut squash soup with a little bit of cream. Just a little bit of cream won't mess up anybody's diet. So that gives it a nice, rich consistency. Nice, look at that. Okay. So all we're left to do now is serve it up. Sprig of fresh parsley in there, a spoon, we're ready to go. Butternut squash soup. Thank you for watching Perfectly Seasoned.
If you've just tuned in, you're watching Connect, powered by the Department of Senior Services. This essential agency manages many programs, for example, the 4 multi-purpose facilities that offer health and fitness programming geared to reduce heart-related ailments faced by older adults. Participants register for classes quarterly, receive recommended health goals and person-centered fitness, such as swimming, Tai Chi, stretch and tone, aerobics, walking classes, as well as line dancing, just to mention a few. Joining us today is a program participant who is also a licensed physician and wellness consultant. Dr. Gladys Brannick is known for successful deployment of urban and rural population-based strategies to promote health and well-being, and is experienced in preventative medicine and epidemiology. Dr. Brannick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How do you work on your health, more specifically heart health?
I'm a very strong advocate of lifestyle medicine, and it impacts every area in my life, especially heart health. And I'm a member of the Benson Center, and I'm very, very active in the Atlanta area.
Okay.
And I emphasize things like eating healthy, because I know that that makes such a difference in my health and well-being, in what I eat. We know that blood pressure is a major driver for heart disease and heart attacks and strokes. And so I try to do those things in the food area that will decrease that blood pressure. I've never had an issue with blood pressure, but I know that if I don't eat things like processed foods, that my blood pressure will be fine. If I eat healthy vegetables, my blood pressure will be fine. If I read labels to make certain that there aren't any trans fat in there. You know, trans fat is something, when you eat it, it causes that unsightly belly fat.
And we shouldn't underestimate reading labels. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's
yes.
a very good tip for our viewers today.
Oh, yes, that is so important. You know, the Food and Drug Administration put a ban on trans fat, but they gave a 3-year time period. So, but there's still some trans fats running around out there. So it's important, if you read the label, if it's on it, don't buy it.
Okay, so our topic is heart health.
Yes.
If someone is diagnosed with heart disease, is that the end of everything? You know, is there no hope, or is there something that can be done?
Oh, there's plenty of things that can be done. You have some of the pioneers, like Dean Ornish, who has 40 years of research. And in fact, he just had a book to come out in January 2019.
What's the title?
Undo It, by Dean Ornish and his wife, Ann Ornish. Cardiologist. And he's done so much research in the area that demonstrates that you can actually, we know you can prevent heart disease, but you can actually reverse it. And you can reverse other things like type 2 diabetes. So it's a good read. There are other people in the area, Michael Greger, who he's very active with a group of physicians, which I'm a member of, Lifestyle Medicine. You can go online, lifestylemedicine.org, and there's so many free videos that our viewers can take advantage of.
Oh, that's great news.
And practice those kinds of things.
Good. We want any information that we share with our viewers to be relevant,
Yes.
where they can take away and use. So speaking of which, there's so much data and research out there on heart health and heart disease, but if you had to share one stat that our viewers could take away from today's show that's so important and so key, what would that be?
Well, many of our cardiologists, and I'm not a cardiologist, would say high blood pressure, or hypertension or high blood pressure. I would say lifestyle, because lifestyle covers so much more than blood pressure. Blood pressure is very, very important, but the way what you eat, how you move. Moving is so important. When I say how you move, I mean moving with attention. What do I mean by that? How are my muscles feeling? How is this? So you get the muscles and the brain talking to each other. And that's when you can experience many healthy effects.
And people underestimate walking, but I think it is so critical and important. It's a part of our adult day health programs where we get our participants up and moving and simply walking inside of the facility. Could talk a little bit more about walking and its effects and why it's so important.
Well, at the malls, you can walk at the malls. Walking can get that heart rate up. But before I say anything about any type of exercise program, always talk with your primary care physician about this before starting any activity. And always have a warm up and cool down phase of whatever it is that you do. So we want to avoid injuries. And since I'm in preventive medicine,
yes.
I stress that very well. But walking is, you feel so wonderful. And if you go to the mall, there's so many other people early in the morning that you can share that feeling of love among everyone, because they're all wanting to be healthy.
Yes.
And it's just a blessing to be able to walk.
Correct, because we do serve individuals who, of course, like we shared earlier in the show, that are facing challenges with mobility. But if you have the opportunity to walk, what
Yes.
Dr. Brannick is saying, make sure that you take any opportunities or advantage of physical activity.
Yeah, but even
And-
if you have a walker,
Even if you have a walker.
you can walk with a walker, yes.
Okay.
Yes. There are things, there's even fitness, chair yoga. Sit in a chair and do it. Move your feet, move your legs, strengthen those muscles.
Yes.
Up and down, up and down. You can sit in a chair and strengthen your leg muscles. If you fall, how you get up, the muscles that you need to strengthen in order to get up and be able to call 911.
Thank you so much for even bringing up Benson. You and I talked about all of our multi-purpose programs and the health and fitness classes that they offer, the importance of participating in our facilities. I want to thank you again for coming to our show today, Dr. Brannick. And we'll be right back with closing thoughts after the break. We're so glad you shared your time with us today. I'm sure you took notes from our experts, Dr. Wiragoda and Dr. Brannick, on ways to prevent heart disease. Hopefully, we piqued your interest in preparing Chef Engelbert's healthy recipe. Send us a picture of your favorite heart healthy recipe, and we may feature you on our future show or website. It is our mission to improve the quality of life for older adults through the development and coordination of programs and supportive services that encourage independence and enhances overall well-being for seniors, their caregivers, and the community we serve. We welcome your feedback and the opportunity to speak with you further about these and more services. For more information about our programs, or our department, please contact us at 404-613-6000 or email us at seniorservices@fultoncountyga.gov. You may also follow us at Fulton Info. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Connect, powered by the Department of Senior Services.